Hey, this is George,
Hey, this is Fred.
and this is Real Talk with George and Frazier. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Not much, brother. Feeling good. I heard y'all almost had a good weekend this weekend.
Oh yeah, look, Three Kings. You know what I mean? I told you offline
Yep.
that this is the heavyweight division. You're dealing with knuckle colors, 4 or 5 ounce gloves. It doesn't take much. I knew when I saw Stipe come in at 30 pounds lighter at weigh-ins, I was like, it's not going to work. It's
Nah.
definitely not going to work. I
It
mean,
improved.
because those
It
guys they rehydrate in 24 hours, and usually when you rehydrate you gain anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds depending on your weight
Yep.
class. So it was definitely not going to work. that
No.
short that short left hook that he threw at that last one, I was like, wow.
I saw it coming. I saw it coming. He set him up the whole time. For he set him up. He didn't see it coming. The world saw that coming. He didn't even see it coming.
That
I
was
mean,
crazy.
I'm like, that ain't nobody in a Mayweather fight. You know it's coming. He gonna throw a hook. He gonna duck underneath. He gonna swing. He gonna counter. Down goes him.
The funny thing was I was watching it at the couch, and our room was right next door. So I jumped up and I was almost screaming. I was like, my wife is sleeping. Craziness.
Yeah. Not that.
Listen, but absolutely, man, I want to congratulate Francis Ngannou on his long journey to a UFC heavyweight champion.
Yep.
Definitely enjoyed it. We wish Stipe the best, and definitely a smooth recovery and comeback. But that's combat sports.
That's
On
coming.
Real Talk, we got a great
Yeah.
show today. All our technical difficulty issues are fixed. So we apologize to those guests last week. We will reschedule and have you on the show. But this week we have Mr. Mark Sandusky. He is a figure skater, okay,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
show. So welcome to Real Talk, brother.
Hey,
Hey,
brother.
how are you guys doing?
Doing pretty
Yeah, I'm doing great actually.
good. Thanks for being on the
Nice.
show.
Of
We
course.
appreciate it. Tell the fans and the listeners a little bit about yourself.
All right, so my name is Mark Sadusky. I'm 23 now. I've been skating for about 12 years. I was adopted at the age of 4 by a white gay dad. Um, I'm currently going to start going to school in the fall at UCCS, and I'm going to be a junior for the nursing program.
Nice.
And hopefully this year or next year, I'll be on Team USA for figure skating. So
Nice.
Nice, nice,
those are the
nice,
goals. Yeah.
That's what's
nice.
up. Nice. So just tell us, like, what are some of the what are some of the challenges as being a figure skater? Kind of like everybody can't do it.
Yeah. So I think in our sport we already have so many challenges. There's there's a lot of mental challenges because once you get like your elements down and you're pretty solid, like you can do it. It's more of the fact going out there, doing it every day and practicing, and then when you get to a competition, producing what you do in practice. And that's like one of the biggest things that I struggle with is like the mental side of skating because like the physical side is quite easy. I think I generally do believe that anyone can do the physical side if you get in shape, you learn how to do it. I think it is a really sport that is meant for everyone, but it's mainly that mental side and learning to have that mental toughness and learning how to cope with that. And I mean, there are lots of bad days of practice. There are lots of tears, lots of bruises. There's a lot that goes into our sport that a lot of people don't see almost. So I feel like that's like one of the biggest challenges that we have. And then also this like the normal sports stuff, the physical stuff. You're always going to be tired. You're always going to be sore. You can always get better. You can always work harder. The grind never stops, especially in our sport. Our seasons are so long. I don't know if you guys know this, but our season usually starts in about May. And if you make it to the world championships, you're done in about March. So you got about 1 month off. Like the world championships for figure skating just happened. They still have another competition in 2 weeks, and then that's their end of their season. So they get about maybe a month and a half off. Probably not really because Olympics are next year. So
Yeah.
everyone's preparing already. So those are probably the biggest challenges.
So let me ask you the question: why figure skating? Out of every sport that you could do, why figure skating?
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
so okay, so there are some stories behind this because my dad likes to tell it a different way. My dad likes to tell the story that I went to a Disney on Ice thing and I saw Disney on Ice and I was so fascinated by all the characters and that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be in that show. I personally remember just going to the ice rink for like a birthday party, and I wanted to originally do hockey. Like I had no
Yeah.
interest in figure skating, but I was actually too small. Like they said I was too small at the time. So they put me in figure skating to learn how the mechanics of skating and everything. And then from there I just kind of started loving figure skating, and I never really looked back. I never kind of looked at hockey again because I was like, no, this is actually really interesting. And like before figure skating and everything, I did other sports. I did soccer, I did baseball, I did basketball, I did frisbee. Like there was lists, but nothing really stuck. Nothing was really my jam until I found this. And like it's just such a like there's no like real way to describe how it makes me feel. Like you get on that ice and there's just so much freedom. There's so much you can do on that ice, and you can just like live and be out there, and it's like such a non-judgment zone out there. It just makes me like it's so nice. So
Nice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm going to take a part of it. I recently started watching figure skating like 2 years ago, and I was to myself, no, do a triple. Stop doing a double. You never get no points for that. What are you doing? The same thing the last guy had.
exactly.
Like, how hard is it to come up with a good element that actually can wow the judges? Because I know if you wow the judges, you get a higher score versus difficulties, the arrangement, and how you land it. The most important thing I've seen is how you land it. And if you do mess up, how do you recover without them knowing it?
Yes. So
Mark,
that is probably one
you
of the
see my face? Did you see my face to that whole thing? Frage is the couch coach. Not he's not sitting there. He's talking to the TV, talking about what they should do.
Exactly.
Not listen to their coach, just what he wants to see them do. That's too funny.
Hey, you got moving now. Figure it out going to technology part too now. You got people sitting on doing this now. No, try the triple loop. No, it's 45 degrees. If you hit exactly this spot here, you're going to land it. Now, if you miss it 2 inches off, I'm sorry, but you're going to be butt skating the whole time.
Yes,
That's right.
that is exactly figure
That's
skating.
right.
If you have to, I mean, there are points in time where you're doing a jump or a spin that you can save it, but if you go up pretty much wrong, you're coming down pretty badly. And I think one of the also hardest thing about our sports is that getting up after you fall is probably one of the hardest things, because like sometimes I've done programs where I've fallen on the first element, and that is so hard because we've got 12 more elements to complete, and you're only 30 seconds into a 4.5 minute program, and you just fell on the first thing, and you got to get up somehow, dust yourself off, and like be like, okay, I got this, I can do it. Because once you fall, some people, it depends on who you are, once you fall, you can kind of slip back down into that spiral of just letting everything else just go badly instead of fighting for what you want. And then also what makes it hard is our programs are so precise. They are down to like the finger, the toe point, the everything. They are so precise that like when you do fall, it makes the programs that much harder, because you've got to get up, you've got to recover, and you got to find where you are and somehow sell it to the judges and be like, yeah, no, that was, it's whatever. Like, I'm good. I'm great. Like, look at me, like I'm doing great. So
let's talk about injury and recovery. I'm glad you mentioned falling and also training for so long. How do you guys make it? Because normally, as a personal trainer, as a martial arts instructor, somebody who's competed on a national team, I know that you have to have recovery time. Or your body doesn't respond. It gets flat. You have overtraining. You have strains. You have injuries that you have to deal with. And you guys hitting the ice is not, it's not like we're on a mat or we're in a, we're in a boxing ring or a sparring ring where the floor is padded when you fall. You're hitting something that's extremely hard. How do you assess? Is this broken? Is that sprained? How am I doing before?
So when I moved here this year, my coach now, Delilah Sappenfield, who's coached teams at the Olympics and everything, she is very good about the recovery and the process of it. A lot of people train differently. A lot of people do, and I can't say too much because I don't want to give away all the secrets. A lot of people do programs every single day. And that's not how we do it. We kind of mix it up. We kind of do sections and parts and stuff. So we're not rigorously training every single day to the hardest max, because you don't want to peak too early. Like if you're doing a program every single day, you're going to peak too early on in your season. We kind of take a break start like a month and a half out and we start our serious training. And then that last week and a half, that's where the hard training comes in. And that's where we peak right in time for competition. And I mean, that was probably the hardest thing I had to learn this year, was because last year when I was with my old coaches in Florida, they would do program every single day. And like, you felt trained and you were ready because you knew you could do it. But this way, it's like, you know, like you'd only have a couple like chances to do your long, your short every single day. And it's like, oh shit, like you got to get that going and you got to be good at it. But then when you get to that competition and when you get there, like you're like, you don't, there's no doubt in the back of your mind. You're just like, I've got this. Like the training that we do is so much harder than doing that 4.5 minute program, that when you get to that 4.5 minute program, it's easy. In terms of recovery, I mean, we do lots of stretching. We've got massage guns. I try to get a massage every other week or every week if I can. There's like ice baths, Epsom salt. In terms of injuries, I mean, I've had a couple. I did break my back a couple years ago. So I was off the ice for about 6 months. And I had to like really kind of reevaluate what I wanted to do in skating. And because skating is perceived as such a short-term sport, as in you can only like, it's almost like gymnastics, like you're bred to be 16, 17, 18 right when that Olympic hits, and like that's your time. And I feel like that's a common misconception, because the last Olympic champion in Paris, she was 34 years old and she had 6 Olympic games. Like, and if you know how to take care of your body and you just know how to kind of just make sure you're doing okay, and if something's hurting, you get it checked out, always taping your ankles, icing anything that hurts, and just continue to stretch. Stretching is the biggest thing that I think people don't realize about our sport, is that all those little hamstrings, all those little muscles in your body, that plays a big factor into the bigger parts of your body. And if you don't stretch and don't take care of those, you're probably going to end up injured. So that's what we're always constantly harped on about. And it sucks because, I mean, no one wants to stretch after a long day of practice. No one really wants to, like, everyone wants to get home, go to bed, get some food. But, like, those are, like, the important parts that I really think that make a champion. So.
True. Let me ask you about nutrition. Hold on, Fresh. About nutrition. How do you guys have cooks that cook for you? Do you cook for yourself? You know,
we cook for ourselves. Nutrition is a touchy subject in figure skating, as in any sport. Like, I mean, and I'm not trying to go into it. Like, there's certain things that we can't eat. Like, as a pair guy, I'm more lenient because I have to be strong. Like, I have to be strong, so I have to go to the gym. I have to get my protein. I have to get that. I have a nutritionist of my own that I work with, just making sure that I have every single thing I need, because I'm the type of person that I hate eating breakfast in the morning. So if I don't eat breakfast, by the time I get to the rink at 10:30, I'm exhausted already. And you're already starting your day at a deficit because you have nothing to work off of. You have no energy. So it's really making sure that, like, the things that I'm eating, it's not overpowering, so like I'm stuffed, but it's like to the fact that, like, this will give you energy. These are the things that give you energies throughout the day. And it's not a lot of big meals. It's a lot of smaller meals that give you the energy and the stuff that you need to get through that training day. And then when I get home, those are like that's like a typical dinner and stuff for me that I eat. And it varies from every other person, because I don't want to say like I have the same body type as anyone else, because I don't. Like, I can say my roommates, like, they can eat all day and they can eat as much as they want and they can skate and do fine. And that's great. But if I feel like I eat too much, I feel like I can't, like, do anything. I just felt like I gained so much weight and I can't really do my elements. So that's why I'm kind of on this little set of, like, what I eat here and there. So.
Sure. How many meals do you eat a day? 6 meals? 4 meals?
I eat about 8 meals a day. On my longer days, it's about 8. On my shorter days, it's about 6. My long days consist of working out I get up at 5. I'm at the gym by 6 a.m. Then I go to the rink, at the rink by 7:30. Then I'm from 7:30 to about 2. And then I go to work from 3 to 9. And then I get home and I have another meal. So it's like scattered meals in between here and there that are good. I always make sure I have coffee or some type of caffeine to keep me going as well, because that's important to me.
True. Well, I'm gonna piggyback. See, football is similar to figure skating because we get a lot of injuries. We always constantly hit the ground. Depending on what position you play. So I'm gonna say this. I know when football we get injured, you had a mental state of can I get on the field or whatever you get injured before, you don't want to do that again. So you kind of avoid that whole mindset. Now, how do you get your mindset back from that injury and to get back to perform back where you used to be or improve that?
Yeah, so that's a really big thing is like the mental block if you hurt yourself on the ice and you don't want to do it again. I mean, for me, like this might sound cliche, but you have to fall to get better. There's nothing you can do. You're in a hard sport that you're gonna fall hard, and people are pushing the technical difficulty with what they can do and everything. It's gonna be hard, and you're gonna have to like be like, okay, you know what, that was a one-time fluke, because half the time these injuries they really are a one-time fluke. They're bad, but they're like such accidents that aren't gonna happen again. Like that, you're just like, okay, that's fine. I mean, when I broke my back, that was the scariest part. Like I had no muscle coming back. Like I had no sense of ability to skate. Like I was just like, I had to skate in a back brace for 2 months after that, just to make sure I could keep my posture up straight and just make sure that like nothing was over bending or anything. And getting back on that ice, it was scary because it was like, oh shoot, like I like anything I'm about to do, like I don't want to tweak it. And there were times where I was like, oh, my back is hurting, but it's just actually weak. So it's kind of understanding where your body is, because half the time it's, if you are hurt, it's coming back from that injury and making sure that you're building that muscle back in that particular, like wherever you got injured. But it's also just making sure that, you know what, like you're in a sport that's going to be hard hitting. Like you've got to do your job, and your job is to get out there. It's to perform. It's to do your best and do your best ability. So that's what I think about at the end of the day. If something's hurting, I'm like, okay, this is my job. Like, this is what I signed up for. Like, no one is forcing me to do this. This is motivation for myself because I want to be the best.
Right. So back to that injury of the back. Obviously, you know, it must have been a fracture, because if it was a complete break, you wouldn't be skating anymore.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Was it your fault? Was it just the ice? Did you misjudge it? Did you second guess yourself?
So it was actually over a period of time, and it was definitely my fault because I didn't really take care of it when I should have. I used to be really flexible about a couple years back, and I'm still decently flexible. I'm getting back there, but I used to be really flexible, and I kind of got overconfident and stopped stretching as much, stopped doing as much, and all of those moves where I'm like grabbing my leg and putting it up next to my head, and like just the way I would land, like we land. So in figure skating, we land on our toe pick and then we go back down on the blade, and I would just land flat foot, and it would like, it kind of like shocks your spine because it's like, it jolts you. So it was a combination of those two things, and me being like, well, nationals is like, the qualifiers for nationals is right around the corner. Like I need and I was pushing myself harder than ever. I was like, it doesn't like it. You know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I was going to doctors. I was just taking extra ibuprofen. I mean, I got a cortisone shot in my back just so I could try to get there. And the week before I was supposed to leave, I was running my program, and I fell in several jumps. I fell in the last jump of my program, and I couldn't get up. Like it was so, like I was in so much pain that I was just like, I couldn't move. So obviously they called the ambulance. We got my checked out. They were like, you have 3 fractures in your back. And that's why now I am so oriented like about my training and about how I recover now, because I'm like, that taught me so much when I was off the ice, because I was like, I could have quit and been done with the sport. I could have been like, you know what, this is a perfect outing. And I was like, no, this is really something I want to do. So how am I going to get better? And it was a tough recovery. It wasn't easy, but it was definitely something that I am glad that almost happened to me, because it definitely made me a better person and more aware of what I need to do to become a better skater.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, the reason why I asked that question, because martial arts and martial arts training is almost the same thing. If you have energy going out, energy is coming back in. A lot of people don't understand that, you know, when you're hitting something, the energy also goes out and resonates back into your body. Okay. And depending, my grandmaster always says this, depending on where the weakest link is, that's where the energy will reside in your body, because it's a lot of power transfer. And I'm saying that because I want people to understand two things. When even if you're landing, if you land wrong, wherever that line is of that weakest link, that's where the energy will stop and focus more. That's the first thing. The second thing, in your position, a lot of people go for those cortisone shots, and you have to be extremely careful because cortisone actually deteriorates the joints and the ligament. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't strengthen them.
Exactly.
And so you hear about people that systematically have these cortisone shots, and the next thing you know, boom, that joint, that ligament, whatever it is in your back, it deteriorated, and it deteriorated fast. That knuckle, that joint, deteriorated and deteriorated faster. Yeah. So that's why I was shaking my head when you said, "Oh, you got a cortisone shot." I was like, "Oh no, not the cortisone."
Hey, Joy, cortisone shot is like a Tylenol in football. And all they give you is a cortisone shot.
Oh, yeah.
Knee hurt, right in your knee. Shoulder hurt, right in your shoulder. So that's why a lot of players was getting injured, because what happened to one player, I found out too, when you get so many cortisone shots, your nerve get damaged.
Yep.
And when you get constantly hitting, it damages more and more and more.
Right.
So every time you keep doing it, like say we're falling or getting hit, it's like you're getting in a car crash. You keep doing it, it gets damages. And one of my teammates went up for a play, his arm literally flopped. And it just dropped. He lost his whole feeling, the whole entire arm, both days. And what I'm saying that is, when I started Muay Thai, saying what George said, the transfer energy plays a big part. And believe it or not, it's a lot of Muay Thai fighters also transition over to figure skating now because of the technique of their legs and knees, because they're always constantly impacting and learning to be balanced. Now, I'm gonna tell you a good secret though, ballet.
Yeah,
there's an unstamped secret. Nobody. Walter Payton did it. Barry Sanders did it. A lot of great players did ballet.
And ballet and also yoga for balance and stretching purposes. Those are the two sports those are the two exercises that a lot of people don't understand. But muscle stabilization and balance are the keys for anything. Because Mark, you may not know this, but in martial arts, when you're competing, we're competing for the knockout, or something we call trembling shock. And what that means is when you hit a person, they have to. There's a shock wave from your strike that you get judged the point on. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that means that you have to hit somebody that hard that the energy goes into them and causes some type of disruption in their body. Whether it's with a hand or a foot. That's why they call it trembling shock. But that shock also comes back into your body as well too. I've seen a lot of people crack shins, break toe knuckles, break ankles, trying to kick something like that or punch something that hard. So it's definitely a challenge. But that being said too, also, I want to just transition back to figure skating. What are some, besides the routine, besides the training, besides the mental aspect, what are some of the things really that you can tell our listeners that are make or break for figure skating, so to speak? Because we always see the glamour, we see the beauty, we see the this, we see the that, we see the but we don't see that. Hey, look, I only got one more time and I'm done, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think just going back to just really quickly, just because this crossed my mind, there are so many shows about figure skating. They just released a Netflix show called Zero Chill about figure skating, and everyone watches that and they glorify our sport to it's so girly, it's so this, it's so that. And I don't agree with any of that, because behind all of that makeup, costumes, and everything, there are hours and hours and hours of practice. I mean, there are times where I've practiced 7 hours in a day, and there are just so many practices. There are so many tears. There are so many bruises. There are so many, coaches get mad at you, screaming at you. You're not doing enough. You need to push yourself more. There is so much behind our sport that people don't see. And it's almost like people are like, wow, look at them. They performed great when they got to a competition. And I was like, but you don't see what happened behind all of it. And I think one of the biggest things is that in figure skating, we try so hard to put on this image of we're always happy. And I've almost kind of stopped doing that because I need to be honest with myself. And if like I come into the rink and I feel like absolute garbage, I'm gonna tell my coach, I'm like, listen, I'm gonna give it 100%, but know that I've done all the work this week and I feel exhausted. I'm still gonna give it 100%, but just know that if it doesn't look the best, it's because this is how I'm going. And I think people are afraid to kind of talk with their coaches, and like, people need to realize that their coaches are there to help them get better, to succeed in their goals, and they're going to push you till you can't be pushed anymore. And that's when at that moment, that's when you let them know, be like, you know what, I have been pushed to my max. And when you can hit that maximum potential, that's when you know that you're doing what you need, because that will get you to where you want to be, and that's where you want to do. And I mean, we love to get on the ice. We love to joke around. Like, I love to make TikToks on the ice for like a couple minutes and stuff. But once you get out on that ice, I think people need to realize, like, if you're doing this for serious, because I mean, again, figure skating is not cheap. It is not a cheap sport to be in. You need to get on that ice, and you cannot waste any time. You need to take every minute to practice every single detail that you can, so that you can get better.
Right. All right, let me ask you, in the stage where you are, do you get sponsorships, or are you still self-paying? How does that work?
So as of right now, because I don't have a partner or anything, I'm still paying for everything my own. So that's why I work a full-time job. Once you get onto Team USA, there are funding options. And then once you get to like the top Team USA, they give you certain grants for like how much money you can get and stuff like that. And then US Figure Skating also does a lot of scholarship opportunities. So I always try to apply for those, because those are like $1,500, $300,000 to help for that skating. So those are really good opportunities too. But a lot of it getting into figure skating, it's very much self-paid. And it's quite interesting, because in America, it's kind of like the only country that kind of does this. Like, it's almost one of the only countries that it's self-paid, because you look at Russia, you look at China, like the big other competitions, all of their stuff they're all camps. They are like, look at you from the age of 4, like, we're taking you, we're putting you in this camp, and you're going to be good at figure skating. And you're expected to be good at figure skating, because that is your job. And once you get there, you're expected to work, you're expected to do this, you're expected to produce results. And when you do produce those results, you're kind of set up for the rest of your life. So, and it's like one of those big factors where I've always talked about this with people. I was like, I think we need to start doing something like that. And that's what my coach is trying to do at our ice rink now that we just moved to, is she's trying to create her own camp. Like, obviously it's still, you're going to have to pay for it and everything, but it's one of those camps that give you everything. They give you all the training tools that you need. You have your off ice class, you have this, and we're taking all of these young skaters that are eager to skate and learn, and we're putting them all in these classes. And I can't tell you, like, in 2 months, I've seen some of these skaters, like, that are 5, 6, grow so much in terms of what they need to do, and they're starting to really get it. And I also think one of the biggest things is the kids. Like, some kids come into skating and they're like, it's for fun and games. And I'm like, no, like, we're here to teach champions. Like, that's our ultimate goal. Like, when I coach, like, I'm like, I want to see the potential, and I want to see the work that you're going to get better, and you're going to want to get to the top to where I am, and you're going to want to compete like me one day. Because that ultimately, if we can kind of get that going, if we can kind of get this going and start having that happen, I think really there's going to be a very big shift in figure skating as a whole, if we can kind of just get everyone to kind of realize what we're doing is good, but look, we could do even better.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, because I know for a fact that an Olympic gold medal in other countries like China, Brazil, and a few other places is worth $1 million. That's what your family gets. If you get a silver medal, they get $500,000. You know what I mean? We're the only country where we love our athletes to death, but we don't really put that much into them. Everything is volunteered, or everything is, you know, when you get there, we'll pay you, but we won't invest the money in it to make sure that you can get there.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is like investing the money into the right places. Like, I have felt almost done. I felt like there are so many times where there needs to be money invested into these athletes that are up and coming to show them that we believe in you. And sometimes we just kind of like, whatever. Like we'll get like when you get there, well, like you're great, but yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah.
But I got a question for you though. Now, unlike basketball, unlike football, the male dominant sport, figure skating started as a female dominant sport. There's not more males now coming into the sport because they see the potential, they see the greatness in it. Like, what was your like what was your stages to overcome that stereotype of being a male in a predominantly female sport? And
I mean, I think I was very lucky because the rink I grew up, there was quite a few boy figure skaters. There's quite a lot of figure skaters that were boys at our rink. I think we had like 7 or 8, which is very uncommon for an ice rink. So that was very helpful to me because I was like, look at there's boys doing this. And I mean, obviously there's lots of bullying. Like I'm an African American in figure skating. Like that is not something you see at all. So, but I think that at the end of the day, there's so much. I don't know. It's for me. It's interesting because it's like just only in America you see that because there's so many in every other country. That like figure skaters, like it's nothing looked down upon. It's just you're a figure skater. Okay, cool. Like that's dope. But like for some reason here, it's like you're a figure skater. That's interesting. Like, there are like those doubts and everything. But I generally think that I really did have it lucky because there were so many guys at my rink that I didn't really have to think about that too much. So
nice.
Cool. Mark, I know you got to go. Give us some tips really quick that you can share important to people about figure skating. Like if I want to start or put my daughter in figure skating, give her some tips that she would need, or my son.
Tips to give out. I think these are like top 3. Is never be afraid to fall. You're gonna fall 1,000 times before you get any element perfect. I fall on things that I still to this day literally can do in my sleep, and it's just like, you know what, you get up, you have a day. I think number 2 is just making sure that you're mentally there and mentally prepared to go into what you're doing. Just mentally knowing that this is what I'm doing. Like you can have fun with it, but like I want to be good. And if you can set that up for yourself, I think you're going to do really good in this sport. And 3, train as much as you can. Get into I wish I had done this I wish I had started figure skating when I was like 5 because I started when I was 12, but get into everything you can do. Get into every off-ice class, get into every edge class, get into ballet, get into everything that you can do to get to set yourself up for success. And with that, with hard work, going to the gym, everything that you need to do, I mean, the sky's the limit for you, really. So
great.
So tell everybody where they can find you on social media, all your platforms and everything. Where they can find you at.
So all of my Instagram, my TikTok, my Twitter, my Facebook, it's all just Mark Sadusky, MARK, last name Sadusky, SADUSKY. I post TikToks pretty much daily. I post on Instagram, Facebook here and there. I never post on Twitter, so don't follow me there because you probably won't see anything. But yeah, if there are any other questions, like my direct messages are always open. Like I've got communications all over. Don't be afraid to hit my line up and ask questions.
Well, Mark, listen, we want to thank you for being on the show, man, and taking the time. We greatly appreciate it. Definitely got love for you, brother. You keep doing what you're doing, man, and we're going to be rooting for you.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you back on and tell them you want to go better. You want to see it.
I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you. Don't worry. Awesome.
Thank you, sir. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome to the county, brother. Oh, man.
Great show. Told you it was a great show, man. Short and sweet. We definitely love to handle that and keep it going. We got some other great shows coming this week. But don't forget, we're also going to reschedule those shows from last week as well. Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fraser.
And that was Real Talk with George and Fraser. We appreciate y'all. See you later.
Stay blessed.